The day began like any other, but it ended in a way I could never have anticipated. I had just returned home from a long day at work, the weight of the world resting on my shoulders. As usual, I parked the car in the driveway, and as I stepped out, I noticed something odd. The garage door was slightly ajar, and a flicker of movement caught my eye. I paused, a sense of unease creeping over me. I had learned to trust my instincts, and right then they screamed at me to investigate. I walked slowly to the garage, my heart pounding in my chest. The moment I entered, I was greeted by a scene that would change my life forever. There, in the dim light of the garage, was my wife, Sarah, entangled with Mark, the gardener who had been tending to our property for the past few months. They were so lost in their moment that they did not even notice me standing there, frozen in disbelief. Time stopped. The world around me faded away, and all I could hear was the pounding of my heart. The sight of their intimacy felt like a knife ripping through my chest. How could this happen? My mind raced with questions, each more painful than the last. I thought about the years we had spent together, the trust we had built, and the love I thought was unbreakable. But in that instant, all of it shattered like glass. The betrayal was so vivid, so raw, that it left me gasping for air. I stumbled back, my mind in a whirlwind. I wanted to scream, to shout, to confront them right then and there. But instead, I turned and walked away, the weight of their actions pressing down on me like a heavy fog. I needed to think, to process what I had just seen. I felt sick, a deep gnawing pain in my stomach. That would not go away. How could she do this to me? How could she betray our vows? When I finally gathered the courage to confront her, my heart raced with a mix of rage and despair. I had spent the last hour pacing in our living room, replaying the scene over and over in my mind, trying to make sense of it all. I felt like a fool, a man whose trust had been shattered in the most brutal way possible. "Sarah," I called out as I entered the house, my voice trembling with emotion. She appeared in the hallway, her face pale, eyes wide with shock. I could see the panic setting in as she realized, "We need to talk," I said firmly. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, trying to play innocent, but the guilt was written all over her face. I could not believe she thought she could hide it from me. "I saw you," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I saw you with Mark in the garage. How could you?" My voice broke at the last word, and I felt a tear slip down my cheek. I was angry, hurt, and utterly betrayed. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I could see the gears turning in her mind, searching for a justification, a way to explain the unexplainable. "It is not what it looks like," she finally managed to say, desperation creeping into her tone. "Not what it looks like," I echoed, incredulous. "You were in his arms, Sarah. How can you even say that?" "You betrayed me with him. I was lonely. Okay?" She shot back, her voice rising. "You were never around. You work all the time. I needed someone, and so you decided to betray me." I interrupted, my heart racing with fury. "That is your excuse. You could not come to me and talk about it. You had to sneak around like a coward?" Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of remorse, but it was quickly replaced by defensiveness. "You do not understand. You were always so busy, so focused on work." I felt abandoned. The conversation spiraled into a whirlwind of accusations and justifications. I wanted to believe that we could salvage our marriage, that somehow we could work through this. But the reality of her betrayal loomed over us like a dark cloud. It suffocated any hope I had left. As the confrontation reached its peak, I felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I did not want to be the victim anymore. I wanted to reclaim my power. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. I would take the car, our car, and leave her stranded. But that was just the beginning. A darker plan began forming in my mind. The confrontation ended as abruptly as it began, leaving us both breathless and reeling from the emotional fallout. I could see the realization dawning on Sarah's face, a mix of fear and confusion. As I turned away from her, my mind was racing, the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I was no longer the hurt husband. I had shifted into a phase of calculated resolve. I had a plan, and it was time to execute it. I stormed out of the house, my heart pounding, and made my way to the garage. The car sat there, gleaming under the fluorescent lights, seemingly indifferent to the storm brewing inside me. I had always loved that car. It was a symbol of our life together, a testament to our shared dreams. But now, it felt like a weight, a reminder of the betrayal that had shattered everything. As I slid into the driver's seat, I felt a rush of power. I could take this away from her. I could leave her stranded without a means to escape the mess she had created. It was a petty act, perhaps, but it was mine. I turned the key in the ignition, and the engine roared to life, drowning out the chaos in my mind. I was taking control, reclaiming a piece of my shattered dignity. Driving away from the house felt surreal. The streets passed by in a blur, my thoughts racing faster than the car itself. I did not know where I was going, but I did not care. I just needed to put distance between me and the scene of my heartbreak. As I navigated through familiar roads, I felt a strange mix of liberation and sadness. I was free from her betrayal, but the emptiness inside me echoed louder than the engine's roar. But as I drove, I could not shake the feeling of impending consequences. Leaving Sarah stranded was not just about revenge, it was also about making a statement. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to understand the repercussions of her actions. I wanted her to know that I would not be a passive participant in this betrayal. After a while, I found myself parked near the cliffs, overlooking the ocean, a place Sarah and I used to visit when we first fell in love. I took a deep breath and allowed myself to reflect on what had just transpired. The anger that had fueled me slowly began to fade, replaced by a creeping sense of dread. What had I become? I was a man driven by betrayal, willing to hurt the woman I once loved to reclaim my sense of self. It was a bitter pill to swallow. I thought about Sarah, sitting at home, likely in tears or filled with anger. I had left her without a car, without a means to get around, and without me. I imagined her calling friends or family for help, only to be met with questions and judgment. Would she feel remorse? Would she realize the gravity of her actions? Or would she simply blame me for her predicament? As I sat there, I could not help but feel a twinge of guilt. Was I being too harsh? I had loved her once, and despite everything, a part of me still did. But then I remembered the image of her with Mark, the intimacy they shared, and the betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. I shook my head, trying to dispel the lingering doubts. No, I had to stick to my plan. This was about self-preservation, about making sure she understood the consequences of her actions. After what felt like hours, I finally decided it was time to head back. I maneuvered the car back onto the road, my heart heavy with uncertainty. What would happen when I returned home? Would she be waiting for me, filled with apologies and regret, or would she lash out, defiant in her anger? I had no idea, but I was ready to face whatever came next. And as I drove, a new thought emerged, a thought that would add an unexpected twist to our already complicated situation. I had discovered something in the car, tucked away in the glove compartment, a small memory card that I had never seen before. What secrets did it hold? I was about to find out, and I had a feeling it would change everything. As I pulled into the driveway, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The house was quiet, almost eerily. So, I stepped out of the car, taking a moment to gather my thoughts. I had made my choice. Now I had to see it through. I walked towards the front door, my heart racing with anticipation and dread. I was about to confront the reality of my actions and the impact they would have on both of us. Little did I know, the memory card in my pocket would soon reveal a truth far more shocking than I could ever have imagined. The moment I stepped inside, the tension in the air was palpable. Sarah stood in the living room, her expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You took the car," she demanded, her voice rising. "How could you do this to me?" I took a deep breath, ready to respond. But the weight of the memory card in my pocket seemed to grow heavier. I had yet to examine its contents, but something told me it was important. "Why would you take the car?" she repeated, her voice trembling with indignation. "You are punishing me for what I did, but this is not going to solve anything." Her words were sharp, but they felt hollow, lacking any real understanding of the pain she had caused. "You think I am punishing you?" I asked, my voice steady. "You betrayed me, Sarah. You chose to be with another man, and now you want me to feel sorry for you." She opened her mouth to respond, but I could see the realization dawning on her face. She had crossed a line, and now she was grappling with the consequences. "This is not fair," she said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "I made a mistake, but taking the car is not going to fix anything. It is just going to make everything worse." I felt a surge of anger at her words. "You think this is about making things worse for you? I am trying to make you understand what you have done. This is about accountability, Sarah. You need to realize that your actions have consequences." She turned away, running a hand through her hair in frustration. "You are being so vindictive. I get that I messed up, but this is not the way to handle it. You are just making everything worse for both of us." Her words stung. I had not wanted to be vindictive. I wanted to reclaim some semblance of control. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to understand how deeply she had hurt me. But now, standing there in the silence of our home, I began to wonder if I had crossed a line myself. "Maybe I am being vindictive," I admitted, my voice dropping. "But you need to know that I will not just roll over and accept this. You hurt me, Sarah. You broke our vows. I cannot just pretend everything is fine." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for a brief moment, I saw a flicker of regret in her eyes. "I am sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I did not mean for it to happen. I was lonely, and Mark, he was there. I did not think it would lead to this." "Did not think it would lead to what?" I snapped, frustration bubbling over. "To you betraying everything we built together. You did not think about me at all." The silence that followed was deafening. We stood there, two people caught in a web of hurt and betrayal, and I could feel the weight of our shared history pressing down on us. It was suffocating, and I wanted to escape, to run away from the pain that hung in the air like a thick fog. But I could not run. I had made my choice, and now I had to see it through. I had to ensure that Sarah faced the reality of her actions. that she understood the impact of her betrayal. I need time. Sarah, I said finally, my voice firm. Time to figure out what I want and what this means for us. I cannot just forgive and forget. Not after what you did. She nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I understand, she said quietly, but please do not leave me like this. I will do whatever it takes to make things right. I shook my head. You cannot just say that. You need to show me. You need to prove to me that you understand the depth of your betrayal. As I turned to leave the room, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was angry, hurt, and yet there was a part of me that wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could fix this, that we could somehow salvage our marriage. But the memory card in my pocket felt like a ticking time bomb, and I needed to know what it contained. I walked to our home office, closing the door behind me. With trembling hands, I inserted the memory card into my computer. What I found left me breathless. The card contained dozens of photos and several video clips, but they were not of Sarah and Mark. They were of Sarah and various other men, all taken over the span of the last 2 years. The betrayal was not a one-time mistake as she had claimed. It was a pattern, a deliberate choice she had made repeatedly. My world tilted on its axis. I felt sick to my stomach, the magnitude of her deception crashing over me in waves. How could she look me in the eye and claim it was a momentary lapse in judgment? When the evidence pointed to years of infidelity, I sat there, staring at the screen, my mind racing with implications. The woman I had married, the woman I had built a life with, was not the person I thought she was. She had been living a double life, maintaining a facade of love and commitment while secretly betraying me at every turn. In that moment, something inside me hardened. The pain was still there, but it was now overshadowed by a cold, calculating anger. I would not confront her immediately. No, I would bide my time, gather more evidence if necessary, and then I would make her face the full extent of her betrayal. The days that followed our initial confrontation were a haze of confusion and emotional turmoil. I had taken the car, and with it, I had taken a piece of our life together. Sarah was left without a way to get around, and I could feel the tension in the air every time we crossed paths in the house. It was as if we were living in two separate worlds, both haunted by the choices that had led us to this moment. I watched her as she tried to navigate her new reality. Without the car, she was relying on others for transportation. A friend here, a family member, there. I could see the frustration in her eyes, the way she struggled to adjust to the sudden changes in her life. But deep down, I knew that this was exactly what I wanted. I needed her to feel the weight of her betrayal. I wanted her to understand that her actions had consequences, and I was determined to make sure she did. Every time she asked me for the car, I felt a surge of satisfaction. I need it for work, she would say, desperation creeping into her voice. It is not fair to keep it from me, but I would simply shake my head, maintaining my stance. You made your choices, Sarah. Now you have to deal with the fallout. At night, I would lie awake, thinking about the contents of the memory card. The images haunted me, but they also fueled my resolve. I had not confronted her about them yet. I was waiting for the right moment, waiting for her to show some genuine remorse for what she had done. One evening, as I sat in the living room, Sarah approached me, her expression more vulnerable than I had seen in weeks. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. I could tell she was struggling to find the right words, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of anticipation. Maybe this was the moment I could reveal what I knew. "Talk about what?" I replied, my tone guarded. About what happened," she said, her eyes searching mine for understanding. "I know I messed up, and I have been trying to figure out how to make things right, but I need your help." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued, but still wary. "Help? You think you can just say you are sorry, and everything will go back to normal?" "It does not work that way, Sarah." "I know it does not," she said quickly, frustration creeping into her voice. "But I am willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. I will go to counseling. I will talk to my friends about it. Whatever you want, I do not want to lose you." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, the desperation that came from someone who had realized the gravity of their actions. But could I trust her again? Could I really believe that she was willing to put in the effort to rebuild what we had lost, especially now that I knew the full extent of her betrayal? "I do not know, Sarah," I admitted, my voice low. "You broke my trust. It is not something that can be easily repaired." "I understand that," she replied, her voice steady now. "But I want to try. I want to be better. I want to show you that I can change." I felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over me. Part of me wanted to believe her, to give her a chance to make amends. But another part of me was still simmering with anger, still raw from the betrayal. I could not just turn off those feelings. They were part of me now. And then there was the memory card, the evidence of her years of deception. How could I move forward knowing what I knew? "Why should I believe you?" I asked, my voice firm. "You had every opportunity to come to me, to talk to me about your feelings. Instead, you chose to betray me. How do I know this is not just another empty promise?" She took a deep breath, her eyes welling with tears, because I am standing here admitting that I was wrong. I am not asking for forgiveness right now. I am asking for a chance to prove that I can be the partner you deserve. I know it is going to take time, but I am willing to fight for us. Her vulnerability struck a chord deep within me. I could see the fear in her eyes, the fear of losing everything we had built together. It was a stark contrast to the defiance she had shown during our earlier confrontations. I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to tremble, but I was still hesitant. There was still the matter of the memory card, the proof of her prolonged betrayal. Time does not mean anything if there is no action behind it, I said slowly. You need to show me that you are serious about this. It is not enough to just say the words. You need to prove it. I will, she said, her voice resolute. I will do whatever it takes. Just please, do not give up on me yet. As she stood there, vulnerability etched on her face, I made a decision. I would give her one chance, one opportunity to come clean about everything before I revealed what I knew. There is something I need to ask you, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. Was Mark the only one? Have there been others? Her face paled, and I could see the conflict in her eyes. She was at a crossroads, and her next words would determine the course of our future. No, she whispered, her voice barely audible. There have been others. The admission hung in the air between us, heavy with implications. While I had already known the truth from the memory card, her honesty in this moment gave me pause. How many? I asked, my voice steady, despite the turmoil inside. 3, she replied, her eyes downcast. Including Mark. I knew she was still lying. The memory card had shown at least 5 different men, but her partial confession was a start, a step towards honesty, however small. I need to show you something, I said finally, rising from my seat. I led her to the office, where my computer still held the evidence of her betrayal. Her gasp when she saw the images was genuine, a mix of shock and horror. Where did you find this? She asked, her voice trembling. In the car, I replied, watching her closely. A memory card in the glove compartment. You were careless, Sarah, but not as careless as you were with our marriage. She collapsed into the chair, tears streaming down her face. I am so sorry, she sobbed, her shoulders shaking. I never meant to hurt you like this. But you did, I said, my voice firm. You lied to me just now. There were more than 3 men. The evidence is right here. She nodded, unable to deny it any longer. I was afraid, she admitted. Afraid that if you knew everything, you would never forgive me. And now? I asked, curious, despite my anger. Now that I know everything, what do you think will happen? She looked up at me, her eyes redrimmed in pleading. I do not know, but I am hoping, against all odds, that we can find a way forward, that you can forgive me someday. I sighed, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I cannot make any promises, Sarah. The road ahead will be long and difficult, but your honesty today, however belated, is a start. As weeks turned into months, we embarked on a journey of healing and reconciliation. It was not easy. There were days when the pain would hit me anew, days when I wondered if I was making a mistake by giving her another chance. But there were also moments of genuine connection, glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with. Sarah attended counseling, both alone and with me. She cut ties with the men from her past and worked tirelessly to rebuild my trust. And slowly, reluctantly, I began to open my heart again. One evening, as we sat by the fire in our living room, I turned to her, my heart full of conflicting emotions. I never thought we would be here, I admitted. After everything that happened, I never imagined we could find our way back to each other. She reached for my hand, her touch gentle and hesitant. Thank you for giving me another chance, she said softly. I know I did not deserve it. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the genuine remorse in her eyes. We all make mistakes, I said finally. What matters is how we learn from them, how we grow. As we sat there, the fire casting a warm glow around us, I made a silent vow to myself. I would continue to heal, to forgive, and to trust again. It would not be easy, but with each small step we took together, I felt more confident that we could emerge from the shadows of our past and into the light of a brighter future. Here is 2 new beginnings, I said, raising my glass to her. 2 new beginnings, she echoed, her eyes shining with determination. And in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of our shared commitment, I felt a flicker of hope for what lay ahead. We were on a journey of healing, and together, we would navigate the road to recovery, one step at a time. The memory card, once a symbol of betrayal and heartache, had become the catalyst for a deeper, more honest relationship. Sometimes, it takes losing everything to find what truly matters. And for us, what mattered was the truth, painful as it was, and the courage to face it together. The end. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you.